Chairman, just before we take questions, just further to Kelvin's point there about the transformation, this has been signalled in the statement of intent for the last 2 years, which all the councils, including Hamilton, have supported. And essentially, what the councils, including Hamilton, have been saying to LAS is there are a lot more opportunities that we believe the company can look to take to deliver joined up shared services to lower costs. And as part of that, the board has recognised that a company that's better resourced to undertake those activities, but also a board of directors who have a mix of external as well as council representation will also bring that commercial flavour to the table to actually help encourage and drive some of those shared services opportunities. So that's what this transformation refers to. There will be a report coming to the 4th of December meet in this committee, as Kelvin has referred to, for this meeting to formally approve or otherwise of that transformation from a Hamilton City Council perspective. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Blair and Kelvin. Dave.
Yeah, look, thanks, Kelvin and Blair. There's a few issues going on in our region where we're talking about potential collaboration, cross-boundary discussions with other councils that I see that LAS is not involved in, and wondering why the CEOs who are on the board aren't, or the people on the board aren't raising these up because they're having to be as well. We've got LAS on one side, and then we've got individual other discussions. A couple of examples are discussions about regional library services. There's one. Another one is about a regional speed limit, which is a technical thing, a regional speed limit regime, if you like. They're being left to the regional council and taking, in the speed limits case, taking years to not have got anywhere so far, and I'm wondering whether the LAS board has considered some of those issues. We've also had the water issue in the recent past here, and we've still got some cross-boundary water discussions. You know, LAS is doing okay in some of the areas you're talking about, but what about these other areas?
So I think it's a great comment, Councillor Dave. So part of the reason for the transformation is to also bring in that to remove some of the CE influence from the board table, to actually have that external perspective to raise those very issues, to make sure that LAS is being a thought leader, is actually driving the thinking, the change for collaboration. In terms of the specific ones that you've cited there, the libraries and the waters are both on the radar for the LAS board. I wasn't aware of the speed item and whether that's not sure that's relevant or not for LAS, but certainly the other two we have discussed, and we are looking to capture those up into the LAS process. It doesn't make sense to run these discussions outside of the LAS structure, because actually LAS can put a framework around that and actually help drive that. And I guess where there's visibility to LAS, we can also make sure that the communication two-way is occurring. And actually, we're seeing with the other initiatives that we've pulled into LAS, there's a lot more progress happening as opposed to when they're not.
Yeah. The speed limits thing is a technical issue, and I know the RATA work, and this would actually fit alongside, not within, but alongside that sort of thing. And it's one of the issues for many of the councils in the Waikato there is that they don't have the technical resource capacity to do a lot of the work that's required, technically or theoretically required by central government off their own bat. Which seems to be a good reason for some technical cooperation there. They're not asking LAS or anyone to go out and put up their own speed limit signs. They're asking for to set up the process to handle it and to help manage that.
So we can certainly look into that, Councillor Dave. Yep.
Thanks.
Jeff.
Thank you, Gary, and yeah, thanks, Blair, and welcome, Kelvin. I'm interested in the aligned resource consent planning, because traditionally over the years that's one that I've had feedback from people over business people and stuff. Can you just give me a kind of real life example? You mentioned standardisation here, a real life example of how that has improved things.
So Deborah Stan Barton has been involved from a Hamilton City Council perspective.
Yeah.
Jeff, I'm not going to be able to give you fantastic examples, but my understanding is that a lot of the work was not around getting our district plans aligned, because that's quite separate. It was actually the documentation that the customer has to utilise to work through our planning guidance teams was inconsistent across all the councils, and many of the customers who are working with Hamilton are working with other neighbouring councils.
Yep.
And so the customer experience is under this project intended to be much better, so that if you are coming in to apply for a such and such consent or do such a certain planning process, the way you do it with our council and the other councils and others will be the same. I think that's the way I would best describe it.
Okay, so and what about in terms of cost across the councils? That will vary still?
That will still vary, yeah.
And you can't get away from the fact that planning rules will be different, you know, Waikato District, Hamilton, but you can't get away from any of that. So there's still that fundamental issue that planning rules. So you might be doing developments in a number of places, but you've still got different planning rules in each place.
Yes, although there's a couple of parts. That one is the regional infrastructure technical specifications, the RITs that was referred to. That is about standardising where possible the rules for new subdivisions. So footpaths, street lights, all that technical layer that the developers have to work to. That has been standardised as much as possible. The specific district plan rules, no, they're a separate issue, and that's a much bigger kettle of fish. But what we had heard was that many of our customers across our councils were frustrated that the process that they engaged our planning teams was different, and why can't we standardise that? So that's what this project has achieved.
Does it standardise timing at all, or do you still will it still be, we have to wait 2 weeks here, 6 weeks here, 3 days
where
here?
possible, timing is part of it as well, yes.
How does that work then?
Well, I mean, there are certain specified timeframes within legislation.
Yes, there are.
And I guess they've built best practice around those, Jeff. And part of this is also the bigger councils helping the smaller councils to also bring the thinking and the practices that the bigger councils have and share it with the smaller councils, so that the customer experience across those smaller councils is the same they might enjoy in the bigger councils. So
Okay.
I think the prize ultimately would be one district plan.
Yeah.
But we recognise that that's a big challenge, and this was the first step towards
Yeah, cool.
that.
Okay, thank you.
Siggy.
Yeah. Look, just one question is, the government is really strong on raising awareness of climate change. Has that come into any of the discussions?
No, it hasn't, Councillor Siggy, and I guess it's a fantastic question, and this is one of the reasons why we want LAS to have, the LAS board to have some new, fresh thinking come to the table, so that there's a combination of local government representatives, such as myself, and externals who may bring exactly that perspective to the table, to raise other issues that we aren't thinking about or haven't been considered. So that's a fantastic question, one that we can take away and think about the role of LAS.
Okay.
But there'll be plenty of other examples such as that, which I think sometimes it's like the pot calling the kettle black. We need some external perspective to come in and actually shake up somehow we think as local government to make sure we are delivering the best joined up efficient transformational services to the sector.
Thank you.
Thanks, Iggy. Leo.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Blair and Kelvin, with the increase in oil prices and all that sort of stuff, how's that going to affect our bitumen for rata and all that sort of stuff?
I would imagine it have a significant impact, Councillor Leo. I mean, I'm again not closely involved in the rata conversations, but I guess the rising cost of base products, there may be some opportunities, but it's something we need to get the rata team to think about.
And the other thing, of course, is very shortly, in about 18 months, 2 years' time, we're going to have a big workforce which has completed the expressway. Does that give us an opportunity then to get better deals going forward?
So procurement is one of the work streams of Waikato LAS, and part of that is also looking at capital procurement opportunities, particularly joined up capital procurement opportunities. So in a Hamilton context, under GM Chris Allen, we obviously have a lot of work going into our capital delivery focus. Waikato LAS would like to bring that same thinking to the other council partners, and then look at opportunities across the LAS to jointly procure and use our leverage and scale. And I think part of that, Councillor Leo, is how do you smartly procure to target some of those rise and falls in the market so that you can potentially procure when there is a bit of a fall to take advantage of that. So it's about thinking about our program that works across more than just one council.
Thanks.
Thanks, Leo. Ryan?
Thanks, Chair. Just wondering if you could just speak a little bit more on that digital, transformation you're implementing and how that looks to the end user. And could you also just define the customer for me? Is that developers or is that a combination of people? That's non-council people, essentially, eh?
So I'll also look to David, who's a champion for this particular initiative, to speak to this, Ryan, if I can, through the chair.
Hey, Councillor Ryan. I lead the digital strategy for the Waikato LAS and presented that to the board. The opportunity, so we're talking about how do we take all the investment in the separate councils that are around the IT space or digital space, and how do we leverage off getting better value to our ratepayers or our residents for a much cheaper cost. So cost savings, significant cost savings. So if you think about all of the LAS councils at the moment, they all have their own financial system, and they therefore have their own relationship with vendors that support that. There's a tremendous amount of inefficiency through that. There's also, so consolidating those systems would do a lot of things. One, it would you'd get more cost-effective systems, so therefore cost-effective in the sense of would cost ratepayers less. But fundamentally, it would change things like the ability to move to a shared services model, or the de-risking, if you like. Quite often, it's hard to recruit talent to come in and run these systems, and if they're all different, then everyone's got a different problem. It's really the beginning of bringing the brains trust together and being aligned on. And when we talk about a digital strategy, we're talking about 10 years out or 5 years out, something that doesn't challenge a council to move away from something they've already invested in that's still going through the life cycle and not at end of life, but something that is where we agree as a LAS council, group of councils, that when we're coming up to end of life, that we start having conversations and get away from all our reasons that we would want to go our own way, get rid of those and say, look, our ratepayers deserve an 80% solution that's not gold-plated but aligned, so that we can move to reducing the cost of the back office for councils. It's also about having a look at where technology is going in terms of, I suppose, interacting with our community. More and more as our residents get older, they get more familiar with technology, and they don't need to come in and do all their activities at the front desk. We all have banking apps that pay things directly, so there's no reason why we can't have an instance whereby all our ratepayers log on to their council and just see their view of their council in every shape and form that they do, dog licensing, paying their rates, might have a building consent, and they just see their one group of activities that they've got on with the council, and it makes it a hell of a lot easier to transact with council. So that improves what we would say is the well-being of Hamiltonians for Hamilton City Council. So the digital strategy is a vision, and it's something that councils still need to buy into. And so when we talk about LAS and we talk about the board also wear another hat called the CE. And so those CEs need to drive that vision through their organisations to get buy-in and openness to actually work together, as opposed to using excuses to say why they can't. This is about actually taking LAS from what we've achieved so far to actually getting into the thought space and saying, you know what, if we're going to be serious about this, and this is why Calvin's talking about additional resources, my view is that we need to get some, because at the moment there are no resources in LAS apart from Calvin. So if we're serious about driving those better outcomes for our community, as well as driving down costs, we need to actually have some people that can analytically understand what, from the digital space, there's opportunities. So take our 10-year plan, line them all up around the councils and say, okay, so you're doing this big project in year 3. Well, we're doing one in year 3 too, or actually in 4, but we just want to be involved. And so just making sure that we take those opportunities rather than working individually. So LAS not only, when Kelvin talks about shared services, he's talking about LAS becoming more of an influencer throughout all the councils to actually work together. And, you know, the less different suppliers we deal with, the more influence we have with those suppliers, the better the costing structures and the better influence we have in terms of what sort of software that they have and that can develop for us, for our residents. So there's a whole lot of, makes a lot of sense in that conversation, but the gate is really having each council willing to join up in that conversation.
Thanks.
And I think in support of what Dave said, the prize here is ultimately, why do we have 11 councils or 12 councils, the same sort of teams doing similar things on different systems and processes? So if we can crack this particular nut, the digital IT platforms and systems and processes, it's not going to be easy, but the prize is significant. And with the pace of digital technology and bits and pieces, there is potentially significant savings collectively across the councils, us included here, if we can standardise and ultimately over time move to one platform as opposed to, you know, we all work under the same legislation, we all have the same customers, but everyone does things a little bit differently, different systems. It just is crazy. So it's a significant prize, but it's going to be hard to crack, and this is why we need to invest a bit more into LAS. And Kelvin's a 2.5 day a week CEO, and so we have to invest more and show leadership and have the hard conversations, but actually the journey over time will get us to a significant prize, and the board to date have been very supportive of this direction.
And just to quantify it for you, over the 10-year plan for our councils, we would spend somewhere in the vicinity of $80 million plus in this area of new developments, and in terms of our ongoing operating costs, it would be somewhere in the vicinity of plus 150 million in IT. Yep. So around this topic, forget everything else, the nickel and dime stuff. If we crack this, there could be some real savings for all councils, and not only from a financial perspective, there'd be better outcomes for our community, and we'd also be able to de-risk ourselves, where we all individually try and work out the same problem driven by the same legislation in terms of how we operate.
Do we need an amendment saying we wish to crack the nut?
Just get the prize.
No, thank you for that very succinct answer. Comprehensive, I should say. Have I missed an ask here in terms of resourcing? Are you coming today looking for resourcing, or is it
on the 4th of December Finance Committee, there'll be a paper that's going to be asking for some additional funding. It'll go to all councils, and that will be to fund those 2 additional headcount to get after this topic. And the first cab off the rank is to understand what the opportunities are, and then from there it's about projectising each individual opportunity.
That's going to be in the paper.
Yep.
So this is largely at that scoping phase and getting a sense of
Finding out what the opportunities are.
Yeah, cool. Great, thank you.
Yeah, look, Councillor Ryan, we are pressing on with appointing the business analyst, and that's on a 1-year fixed term only at this point, and that's something that we can currently fund within our reserves that we have at the moment. So.
The other element, just to close out that, is you'll also note the comments around the change in the board makeup, and so there'll be some decisions around, you know, how the constitution would change into the board makeup, and of course part of it is externals. There's the topic of remuneration for external members, so there is more than just CE resourcing. It's quite a comprehensive transformation of LAS, and so it's appropriate that each shareholder makes a decision on that. But as I say, it's in line with the statement of intent of the last 2 years that we've been signalling and have been supported. So
Thank you. Paula.
Thank you. Gosh, that was a long answer on technical stuff, wasn't it? Digital stuff. Just a couple of quick questions. First of all, there is an event coming up which elected members can attend to drill down into some of the detail, isn't there? I saw it come into my diary. Isn't there an update in the last board?
You look a bit blank, Blair.
I'm not sure. No.
Oh, okay. Might have been. I don't know. I'll look. I'll have a
You
look.
might be drilling
Let me
down
know
by
if
yourself,
I've
Paula.
missed something, but yes, I'm not. I don't believe
okay.
it is, Paul.
It may have come through a different conduit, but I'll have a look and share it accordingly if it's right. Just interested in the mechanism around influencing this thought leadership that you're talking about, because I think, is it reasonable to say that in the first number of years, LAS was really picking off the easy wins, roading and other bits and pieces that they could legitimately do at the low end of resource and get good gains from, and now we're in this very complex area of how do we go for bigger efficiency and effectiveness. So that's where we're heading, yes. So my question is around how we get that broader buy-in of governance at council level, and what the structures are around. You're having a business analyst, which I would fully support. I think, like you say, you've got a very low level of resource, so how you look for new opportunities, I'm not sure. But do you work very closely with the mayoral? Is it driven through the mayoral forum? Do you work with the Productivity Commission, Local Government New Zealand? What structures are in place to assist LAS in this next phase of growth?
Yeah, so look, at the moment, the LAS, because it has myself on a part-time basis, and that's the extent of it, does look to the participating councils and has a number of committees set up at the moment that help facilitate and drive the discussion on opportunities. So the main committee at the moment is the Shared Services Working Party, which is essentially the CFOs or equivalent of each of the councils. So, and then there's separate work streams for the like of health and safety, human resource, IT, etc. So that's how we have traction at the moment, but it does rely on the staff of the councils and their capacity to be able to commit to that, to drive those initiatives. So, look, on a go-forward basis, fundamentally this is just it's going to be a massive change program, right? So we want to change and challenge the thinking of those councils. So to date, my focus has very much been around getting the board to a place where the LAS board to a place where this is how I see this playing out over the next 2 or 3 years. And having done that, as of September, I will now be looking to talk with each of the CEs of the participating councils and understand from their perspective what support they require to get their councils across the line, and what they see are the barriers to what we're trying to achieve from their council perspective, wearing a different hat to the one that they wear from the board. And equally, we, as a change program, we'll be looking for champions from them. And David mentioned earlier, it's incumbent on those CEs to drive this
Kelvin,
down through.
Today what we're doing is, and sorry, I don't want to stop down debate, but we are receiving your annual report. What you're talking about now, and it's been a great discussion, but that will be in your next statement of intent and that sort of stuff, won't it? So
absolutely.
These things will be addressed with far more facts, because we'll probably need a workshop or something as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm happy for the conversation about how the governance structure interweaves with this to be had at that time. Thank you.
Okay. Mark, did you have anything?
I just do want to pursue that just a little bit without flailing off into a distance with it. Our CE is very big on the reimagining, and I presume you've had some good early discussions with him on that, because in another 6 months everything's going to be different if every CEO is reimagining everything. So how do you keep up with that pace of change and complement it rather than be another thing he has to deal with?
So I think, Councillor, I have been very influential around the board table to get us to this transformational point.
Yep.
And I guess working very closely with Richard's vision and bringing that to the table. So it's an ongoing process, but I think in summary, Waikato LAS is changing from a transactional sort of type entity to one that's going to be a thought leader, driving service change, driving that transformation thinking. What you've heard Richard talk about, LAS needs to also start to get into that space.
Yep.
That's the reason why we need to engage more CE time. We need to have a mixture of external board members, external chair, who are going to come and challenge councils and challenge the CEs around their way of thinking. Exactly what Rich is talking about across the Waikato, to really move us from where we are here in terms of how we deliver our services to here. And in many ways, it's not necessarily the CEs who may be the challenge. It may be layers lower down in the organisation, or it may be certain communities feeling that roles will be lost in those smaller communities. There's lots of layers to this, but we have to bite this off one piece at a time, and we had to start with the LAS structure being able to do that.
Okay, thank you, Blair.
Thanks, Gary.
You're up, Mark. Thank you.
If I can just say one quick thing, Chair.
Away you go, hurry up.
Richard's got saving targets in the 10-year plan. We are going to be getting those savings targets whether we can arrange the other councils to support us or not. Right, so that I don't want anyone to be left thinking that the savings targets that Richard has put in the 10-year plan are reliant on the, Waikato LAS. We're hoping to pull Waikato LAS along with us, meaning all the other councils.
Okay. All right, I'll move the staff recommendation that the Finance Committee receives the Waikato Local Authority Shared Services Annual Report. I'll have a seconder. Martin, we're into debate. Martin.
Try and be as concise. The nightmare scenario is a population of 460,000 people, 12 different councils, different computer systems, etc., etc. No wonder a central government, any central government, must look sideways at local government and ask them to get cracking. I do want to acknowledge LAS. I think it's a very important part of this, and I acknowledge Blair and your team in terms of the link you have through to the Waikato Plan, the Mayor's Forum, the commuter, the study from Papakura to Tiamutu. The Mayor's Forum, one or two, obviously very scared that anything to do with efficiency is a sort of a code word for boundary changes, and that's interesting. One or two. There's some others in that forum who I think are very visionary and into leadership. I think what we want to, I guess, get in the next report is, what are the, keep telling us the runs on the board, but what we need to know is where there is pushback in the region. Because frankly, I think as a council, we're being exceptionally patient, really, and even, with the issue of water, sharing our services water, I think there's about 3 different views now emerging in the region as to how we do that. I will be concise, but I think this is a very important component of making local government in this region more effective and more efficient. And I don't think, with respect, Mr. Chair, you should underestimate Blair and our team's contribution to that, and I acknowledge your own, obviously, role and look forward. And in summary, what we want to know is where we are making gains, and we need to know where we're not getting the gains because there is pushback. And there'll be other forums we can address that.
Yeah, and you did right. There'll be other opportunities to discuss what's going forward. We're looking backwards at the moment in a happy, pleasant way. Okay, there's no more debate. Those in favour, those against, anyone against? Okay, unanimously, thank you. We'll have, sorry Scott and Nick, we'll have a quick coffee break or tea break and be back at 11:20, please. Pardon?